So from the Colosseum, I start walking upward towards the Palatine Hill. It's a short distance, but feels like a major transition from spectacle to the origins, from the Rome of crowds to the Rome that imagined itself into existence. The Colosseum tells you how Rome entertained power. The Palatine Hill has all these remnants of the ancient empire, and basically, as you walk towards it, you can see some of it is very, very basic. The other structures survive. And this is one of the seven hills of Rome. But more importantly, it is the hill where Rome begins, at least in the Roman imagination. According to the tradition, this is where Romulus and Remus were found, the twin brothers abandoned as infants, rescued and nursed by a she wolf. So the she wolf, and of course, it's a myth, but you can also see many symbols across Rome that sort of celebrate how these two brothers were protected by a she wolf and how they were raised by this wolf. So Romulus would go on to found this city in 753 BC after reportedly or allegedly killing his brother in a dispute over where the city should stand. This is a bit like Cain and Abel as well, the foundational story. So archaeology does support one part of this story. Excavations have uncovered remains of early huts from the 8th century BC. So the Rome did not really begin as an empire. It actually began as a village on this very hill. Over time, the Palatine Hill has become the most sought after address in Rome. That is how during the Republic, the elite families built their homes here. And when Rome turned into an empire, the Palatine became the center of imperial authority. The word palace itself comes from Palatium, the Palatine Hill. As you walk through the ruins, one cannot help notice the layers of construction. Tufa stone, Roman concrete, brick and marble. Although where we are now, it's very green and of course it's a sunny day, but you can see these different types of structures and construction materials found here. The Romans reshaped this hill itself, carving terraces and building massive structures. These remains are part of what we will see are known as nymphia or ornamental fountains. We are just about to get there. I was looking at the map before, and thanks to technology, now these monuments and sites are quite identifiable. So these fountains were designed for leisure, but they also demonstrated Roman control over water, a key symbol of power. And here's the Nymphaeum of the Mirrors. Basically, this is one of the many fountains, but you can see how gorgeous it is with that particular style of construction, as well as these symbols that very much define Roman aesthetics, and in particular, how these arches had definitely, I mean, as the guidebook said, they had statues inside. But of course, with time, all of this has changed. And so there we go further, and we are going to we're going to cross many structure. As I mentioned earlier, some of them are pretty intact, while others are crumbling. Some have already crumbled, and we are walking towards Domus Flavia. So the Domus Flavia was built by Emperor Domitian. This was the public place of the emperor, and where the emperor held ceremonies, received ambassadors, and projected the his authority. One of the structures here is the throne room, which in that particular time would have been vast and richly decorated. And then we also are going to cross a large peristyle courtyard with a central fountain, controlled movement and perspective, reinforcing hierarchy and power. And of course, wherever you see these ancient imperial monuments, structure and hierarchies are very important. They are often expressed through the architectural styles and layouts, which project both imperial aesthetics and power. So here is another part of the Domus Flavia, the so-called basilica. I mean, they translate that from Italian, so often they say so-called, which is a little different from the way it's used in the English language, the expression. So you can see even the walking path is an old structure. Of course, I'm sure it must have been improved over time, but we can see how neatly it's laid out. On the right side, that's a new building, and that's the museum of Palatine Hill. So the Domus Flavia also, basically shows how architecture was used as political theater. You can see this huge sort of ground, as well as different structures, and what is remarkable is the kind of detail that you can see even in the kind of bricks which are used, the styles that have been there. Of course, when it was uh, there in its full glory, I'm sure this was a spectacle. And here we are approaching the House of Griffins, which offers a contrast. Of course, smaller, more refined. It dates to the late Republic and is known for its delicate frescoes inside. It's quite lovely and amazing that some of them survive. And it reflects the elite lifestyle before the imperial grandeur took over the hill. Then we walk further, and now we are walking towards the House of Augustus. Augustus, the great emperor, and much of Roman Empire and its glory sort of is linked to the reign of Augustus, and unlike later emperors, he chose a relatively modest residence. And as we soon found out later, that it was being renovated, so it wasn't really much of it was not open to the public, but we did see it from outside. But for now, basically, let's talk a bit about Augustus, because he's such an important figure, and his contribution was that he transformed Rome and established the empire, expanded it while maintaining the appearance of the republic. So Rome from a republic turned into an empire once it started expanding. And so we also saw his wife's palace while walking, and here you can see this museum. This is a new structure. Sadly, it was also closed today. Somehow it has, I don't know, the timings or something we miscalculated, but I love these trees. They're a hallmark of the Mediterranean weather, and of course, the kind of interesting, surreal look they provide. From the Palatine, or Palantino as they call it in Italy, hill towards the Roman Forum. And the shift is really symbolic from private power, these villas and palaces and imperial halls, to a more public life, and of course the empire's grandeur And as we walk down, we can see so many landmarks scattered all over this place. The Via Sacra, the main ceremonial road, the Ark of Titus that commemorated Roman victory, the Temple of Saturn. So the ark, one of the arcs is on the right. I'm going to pass by it, and you can see so many tourists are here. Of course, thank God it's not as bad as it is known to be in the guidebooks and movies, as one can see. And so this is also the place where the Senate met. The Basilica of Maxentius, one of the largest structures in ancient Rome, is also in this part, and this was the civic heart of the empire. This walk from the Colosseum to the Palatine down into Forum is a journey through time and certainly majestic. So we're still walking towards the Roman Forum, and you come upon what feels like a hidden interlude. Basically, the Farnese Gardens on the left. Also, it is referred to as the Secret Garden. On the opposite side, you can see the different ruins. So these gardens, basically, here, it is rather amazing that in the 16th century, one of the cardinals, I think, laid out these gardens. And it's not just the symmetry of terraces, pathways, and citrus trees, but the layering of time itself, a Renaissance garden resting directly atop the ruins of imperial Rome. And from this elevated vantage point, the forum opens up below, and as we walk further, you come across all these landmarks that define the Roman Republic and later the Empire. The Temple of Saturn, once the treasury of the Roman state, the Curia where the Senate convened, and of course the Arch of Titus that I showed earlier, that frames the edge of the Forum, commemorating Roman conquest and imperial power. There you can see the top of that arch over there, and once you're here, you realize that once upon a time, well, centuries ago, this was the civic and public arena, the public square of Rome, both in terms of power and how that power interacted with the people, and how Rome's different phases over centuries have evolved at this very location.